Dallas, Texas, November 1990. Television cameras surround a 23-year-old with platinum blonde hair cut in a style no one has ever seen before. His stage name is Vanilla Ice, and at this moment, his song, Ice Ice Baby, is #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. He is the first white rapper to reach the top of the charts in music history. But something's wrong. The journalists aren't asking about his music. They're asking about his past. About the dangerous streets of Miami where he supposedly grew up. About the gangs he says he ran with. About the knife scars he claims to have. The young man squirms in his chair. He's sweating. His answers are contradictory. In 72 hours, investigators will uncover the truth. Robert Matthew Van Winkle didn't grow up in the ghettos of Miami. He grew up in a middle-class suburban neighborhood in Dallas. There were no gangs. There was no street violence. None of what he said was true. The lie that took him to the top is about to destroy him. Dallas, Texas, 1967. Robert Matthew Van Winkle is born on October 31st in a North Texas hospital. His mother, Beth, is a homemaker. His biological father abandons the family when Robert is just a baby. The father's absence leaves a wound that will never fully heal. Beth remarries. Robert's stepfather is a hard-working but distant man. The family moves constantly, Dallas, Miami, back to Dallas. Robert never quite settles in. At every new school, he's the outsider. The kid who doesn't fit in. At Roscoe W. Rayner High School in Dallas, Robert is an average student struggling to find his identity. He's not athletic. He's not particularly popular. But he discovers something that makes him feel alive. Breakdancing. Miami, Florida. Mid-1980s. The Van Winkle family is temporarily living in South Florida, but not in Liberty City or Overtown, the neighborhoods where the violence of the cocaine wars ravages the streets. They live in Carrollton, a quiet suburban area. Robert attends high school in a middle-class neighborhood. There are no shootings, no gangs chasing him, but the young man observes from afar the explosion of hip-hop in African-American communities. He sees the b-boys dancing on street corners. He hears the emerging rap coming from the radios, and he desperately wants to be a part of it. But there's a fundamental problem. Robert Van Winkle is white. In 1985, hip-hop is predominantly African-American. The culture, the language, the aesthetics, everything belongs to a community to which Robert is a complete outsider. Dallas, Texas, 1986. Robert, now 18, begins frequenting a nightclub called City Lights. There, he sees breakdancing competitions for the first time. Electronic music and hip-hop shake the walls. Dancers spin on their heads, their bodies defying gravity. Robert becomes obsessed. He practices moves at home for hours. He becomes competent, then good, then exceptional. He adopts the stage name Vanilla Ice. Vanilla because he is white, ice because of his cool, controlled style of dancing. But when he steps onto the stage, he feels something is missing. African-American dancers have stories. They've lived on the streets. They've faced poverty, violence, and discrimination. Their movements tell those stories. What is Robert Van Winkle's story? That of a middle-class boy from the suburbs. That's not enough. So he begins to construct a fiction. I grew up in Miami, he tells the other dancers. In the tough neighborhoods. Little lies at first. Exaggerations. But with each performance, the story grows. Dallas, Texas, 1987. Vanilla Ice meets Earthquake, a local DJ who spins at parties and hip-hop events. Earthquake is impressed with Ice's dancing skills, but even more so with his confidence on stage. You should rap, Earthquake tells him one night after a performance. Ice has never seriously rapped before, but the suggestion electrifies him. He starts writing lyrics, practicing his flow, studying the greats. Run DMC, LL Cool J, Public Enemy. He has a natural talent for rhythm and rhyme. Earthquake and Vanilla Ice team up. They start performing in Dallas clubs, then Houston, then all over Texas. The crowds respond. A white rapper is a novelty in 1988, but Ice has more than just novelty. He has charisma. He has energy. And he has that street story that makes him seem authentic. Dallas, Texas, 1989. In a small studio session, Vanilla Ice and his DJ are working on a new track. Ice has been experimenting with samples, searching for the perfect hook for a song. Then he listens to the bass line of Queen and David Bowie's Under Pressure. That iconic line, dum 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 da da dum dum. But Ice makes a small change. He adds an extra note. Dum 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 da da dum dum, TSH. That little TSH, he insists, makes it completely different. A new song. He wrote the lyrics in one afternoon. Ice, Ice Baby. The song is about his persona, the rapper from the cold streets of Miami. It talks about driving fast cars, picking up girls, being the best on the mic. It's catchy. It's danceable. It's perfect for the dance floor. They record the song in a budget studio. They mix it on tape. And they release it independently on a small label called Ichiban Records. At first, nothing happens. Georgia. Summer of 1990. A radio DJ in Atlanta finds a copy of Ice, Ice Baby. He puts it in rotation as filler. The phone lines explode. People call asking who this artist is. They want the song again. And again, the song spreads like a virus. From Atlanta to Miami. From Miami to New York. From New York to Los Angeles. DJs across the country start playing it. Nightclubs play it on repeat. Teenagers record it on their cassettes. SBK Records, a major label with national distribution, sees an opportunity. They sign Vanilla Ice and re-release Ice Ice Baby with massive promotion. The music video is filmed quickly. Ice in leather jackets, surrounded by dancers, performing with his signature unbridled confidence. MTV puts it in heavy rotation. In 1990, MTV still dictates what music becomes mainstream. And MTV loves Vanilla Ice. October 1990. Ice Ice Baby reaches #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It's a historic achievement, the first rap song to top the charts since Blondie released Rapture in 1981, and the first solo rapper to do so. Vanilla Ice becomes an instant cultural phenomenon. His album, To the Extreme, sells millions of copies in weeks. Talk shows invite him on. Magazines put him on their covers. He signs merchandising contracts, t-shirts, posters, action figures. Ice's haircut, with shaved lines on the sides and a long fringe in the front, becomes a trend. Thousands of teenagers copy it. It's the image of 1990s pop culture. But with massive fame comes scrutiny. Journalists begin to investigate. Who is this Vanilla Ice, really? Where did he come from? Is his story true? November 1990. In an interview for a music publication, Vanilla Ice tells the story he has perfected. He grew up in Miami, in dangerous neighborhoods. He was stabbed several times in street fights. He ran with gangs. Music saved him from a life of crime. A journalist decides to verify the facts. He calls schools in Miami. He searches police records. He talks to people who supposedly knew Ice during those years. Nothing adds up. There are no records of Robert Van Winkle at the schools in the neighborhoods he mentions. There are no police reports of stabbings. No local gang has ever heard of him. The journalist calls schools in Dallas. There he is. Robert Van Winkle attended suburban schools. His home address, a quiet, middle-class neighborhood. His record, average student, no serious disciplinary problems, no history of violence. The truth is about to explode. A television studio. November 1990. Vanilla Ice is sitting for an interview that's supposed to celebrate his success. But the interviewer has the results of the investigation. According to our records, you didn't grow up in Miami, the interviewer says. You grew up in Dallas, in a suburban neighborhood. Ice's smile freezes. I've lived in many places, he stammers. There are no records of you being stabbed. There are no police reports. Did you make up your story? The silence lasts 3 seconds. On television, 3 seconds is an eternity. Ice tries to recover, but the damage is done. The interview airs nationally. Other media outlets pick up the story. Vanilla Ice lied about his past, the headlines proclaim. In 48 hours, the narrative changes completely. He's no longer the authentic street rapper. He's an imposter, a fraud, a marketing creation that deceived millions of fans. The hip-hop community, which already viewed him with skepticism because he's white, now rejects him completely. He's not one of us, say established artists. He never was. But the story is just beginning. Because now that the lies are exposed, a much bigger legal problem is about to erupt. A problem involving two of rock's greatest legends, and one that could cost him millions. What happens when an empire built on lies begins to collapse? Manhattan, New York. December 1990. In the offices of EMI Music Publishing, a team of lawyers drafts a letter. The recipient, Robert Van Winkle, known as Vanilla Ice. The subject, Copyright infringement. Ice Ice Baby has generated millions of dollars in sales and royalties. But the bass line that defines the song, that unforgettable hook, is virtually identical to Under Pressure by Queen and David Bowie, recorded in 1981. The difference Ice insists exists, that extra note that supposedly makes his version original, doesn't convince anyone with functioning ears. The two lines are essentially the same. In Vanilla Ice never asked for permission. He never licensed the sample. The credits for Ice Ice Baby don't mention Queen or David Bowie. Under copyright law, this is theft. A television program. January 1991. Vanilla Ice appears to defend himself against accusations of plagiarism. The interviewer plays both songs, one after the other. The similarity is undeniable. How do you explain this? The interviewer asks. Ice smiles with that confidence that has become his trademark, but now it looks more like arrogance. He hums the two bass lines. That's theirs, dum 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 da da dum dum, he says, miming the line from Under Pressure. Mine goes like this, dum 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 da da dum dum. TSH, he continues, adding a small sound at the end. See, it's different. It's that little extra note at the end. The studio is silent for a moment. Then, some members of the audience laugh uncomfortably. Even on national television, Ice's explanation is ridiculous. The difference he describes is so minuscule that it can't be considered original work. It's like taking the opening lines of Stairway to Heaven and adding an extra drum hit, then claiming it's a completely new song. Queen and David Bowie's lawyers are not laughing. London, England. February 1991. Brian May and Roger Taylor, the surviving members of Queen, Freddie Mercury is still alive but seriously ill, discuss the case with their lawyers. David Bowie is in constant contact. Initially, they considered only a lawsuit for damages. But the more they analyzed the situation, the more outrageous it seems. Ice not only copied their music without permission, but then had the audacity to deny that it was a sample, claiming it was his original creation. We want full credit, says Brian May. Not just financial compensation. They want to be listed as co-writers of Ice Ice Baby. They want their names to appear every time the song is played. They want history to remember that they created the hook that made the song famous. Los Angeles, California. March 1991. Away from the cameras and the media, a tense negotiation takes place between the representatives of Vanilla Ice and those of Queen and David Bowie. The numbers are astronomical. Ice Ice Baby has sold over 4 million copies in the United States alone. The album, To the Extreme, became the best-selling rap album of all time up to that point. Total revenue exceeds $50 million. Queen and Bowie's lawyers present their case. Without the bass line in Under Pressure, Ice Ice Baby wouldn't exist. That line is the song's most recognizable and catchy element. Without it, Ice would have a mediocre rap track. With it, he has a worldwide #1 hit. Ice's legal position is untenable. He officially denied using the sample, which makes it impossible to argue that it was transformative use or fair use. He simply took other people's music and used it without permission or credit. April 1991. An out-of-court settlement is reached. The terms are never fully disclosed publicly, but the results are clear. Queen and David Bowie are now official co-writers of Ice Ice Baby. This means they receive a substantial percentage of all past, present, and future royalties from the song. Every time Ice Ice Baby plays on the radio, they get paid. Every time a copy of the album is sold, they get paid. Every time the song appears in a movie or commercial, they get paid. The song credits have been updated. They now read, written by Robert Van Winkle, Earthquake, David Bowie, Freddie Mercury, Brian May, Roger Taylor, and John Deacon. The members of Queen and David Bowie are given primary credit alongside Ice. Although the exact terms of the initial payment are not disclosed, industry estimates suggest that Ice had to pay several $1 million in back royalties. More importantly, he loses creative control over his biggest hit song. It's no longer entirely his. The plagiarism case has destroyed what little credibility Vanilla Ice had left. First, he was exposed for lying about his past. Now, it's confirmed that he stole the music that made him famous. Sales of To the Extreme begin to fall dramatically. Radio shows that once played Ice Ice Baby heavily now avoid the song. MTV reduces its Ice coverage. Record stores move his albums from the front shelves to the discount bins. But the hardest blow comes from the hip-hop community. Artists who already saw him as an outsider now see him as something worse, a thief. In a culture built on respect, authenticity, and giving credit where it's due, Ice has violated every fundamental principle. Third Base, a rap group from New York, released a song called Pop Goes the Weasel that directly attacks Vanilla Ice. The music video shows a Vanilla Ice doll being violently destroyed. The lyrics call him an imposter, a fraud, and a thief. Ice tries to respond, but every move worsens his situation. Spring of 1991. Despite the controversy, Vanilla Ice still has a record deal and touring obligations. His management team decides the best strategy is to move on, act as if nothing happened, and let his music speak for itself. Ice goes on tour in the United States. The first shows are decent. Fans who bought his album before the controversies still want to see him live. But something has changed. The atmosphere at the concerts is different. It's no longer the frenzied adoration of 1990. Now there's cynicism, mockery. Some audiences boo him. At a concert in Detroit, someone in the audience yells "imposter" during a song. Others join in. Ice tries to ignore it, but the tension is visible on his face. While Vanilla Ice struggles to stay relevant, the musical landscape is changing dramatically. 1991 marks the year alternative rock and grunge explode into the mainstream. Nirvana releases Nevermind in September. Pearl Jam releases 10. Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, and other Seattle bands dominate the airwaves. Rap also evolves. NWA, with their gangsta rap style, brings a raw and confrontational authenticity. Public Enemy tackles political issues with an intensity that makes Vanilla Ice's pop rap seem trivial. A Tribe Called Quest and De La Soul showcase the artistic depth of hip-hop. In this new cultural context, Vanilla Ice seems like a relic from a different era. Its light, commercial style, which worked perfectly in the summer of 1990, now feels outdated. Hollywood, California. 1991. Despite a decline in his musical reputation, Vanilla Ice signs on to star in a film. Cool as Ice is presented as a vehicle to showcase his charisma and turn him into a movie star. The film is a disaster from the very beginning. Ice plays a rebellious biker who arrives in a small town and falls for a local girl. The plot is predictable. The dialogue is terrible. The acting is forced. And Ice, with no acting training, can't carry a film on his own. Cool as Ice premiered in October 1991. Critics panned it. Roger Ebert gave it 1 star out of 4. Other critics were even more scathing. Audiences stayed away. The film grossed less than $2 million at the box office on a budget of $6 million. It's a complete commercial and critical failure. And it drives the final nail into the coffin of Vanilla Ice as a mainstream cultural phenomenon. Late 1991. A year after reaching the absolute peak of success, Vanilla Ice is in freefall. His second album is in production, but no one in the industry has any real expectations. Record labels see him as a passing fad that's over. The media outlets that once celebrated him now use him as a punchline. Comedians make jokes about him in their routines. Music magazines cite him as an example of everything that's wrong with commercial pop music. Ice is becoming increasingly withdrawn. Interviews are rare. When he speaks to the press, there's bitterness in his voice. He feels betrayed by an industry that artificially elevated him and then abandoned him when he made mistakes. But in private, something worse is happening. The pressure, the public humiliation, the collapse of everything he built is driving Ice to a dark place. A place where decisions become irrational, where desperation can lead to destructive actions. And soon, that desperation will almost cost him everything, even his life. Burbank, California. 1992. Vanilla Ice is in a recording studio, working on his second album. Extremely Live is technically a live album with some new studio tracks, but the project feels empty from the start. There's no enthusiasm from the record label. There's no significant marketing campaign. Even Ice himself seems to be going through the motions mechanically, without the spark he had 2 years earlier. The album was released in March 1992. The results were devastating. It barely reached number 28 on the Billboard charts, a catastrophic drop compared to the number 1 hit, To the Extreme. Sales were minimal. The reviews were brutal. Vanilla Ice is finished, writes one critic. Its moment passed before it really began. Miami, Florida. Summer of 1992. Ice moves to Miami, the city he falsely claimed as his home during the height of his fame. The irony is not lost on him. Now he's actually living there, but only because he needs to get away from Los Angeles, from the music industry, from everything that reminds him of his failure. He rents a house in a quiet neighborhood. He spends entire days without going out. Depression settles over him like a heavy fog. He has gone from being one of the most recognized people on the planet to being practically invisible in less than 2 years. The money is still there. Ice Ice Baby continues to generate royalties, though now he has to share most of them with Queen and David Bowie. But money doesn't fill the void. He never just wanted money. He wanted respect. He wanted to be taken seriously as an artist. He wanted to prove he belonged in the world of hip-hop. Now he knows it will never happen. 1994. After 2 years of virtual silence, Vanilla Ice announces a new album. Mind-blowing, represents his attempt to completely reinvent himself. He abandons the pop image of his Ice Ice Baby era and embraces a harder, darker sound, more aligned with the hardcore rap that dominated the mid-90s. She's changed her look. Goodbye to her platinum blonde hair and signature cut. Now she has dreadlocks. She wears more urban, less flashy clothes. The lyrics of her new songs are about struggle, redemption, and authenticity. But the public isn't interested in Vanilla Ice's reinvention. The album is an even bigger commercial flop than Extremely Live. It doesn't chart on Billboard. Most record stores don't stock it. Radio stations don't play it. Ice has been completely rejected by the music industry. Miami, Florida. 1994. One summer night, Ice is alone in his house. He's been drinking. The depression that has been his constant companion for 2 years feels unbearable tonight. He steps out onto his second-floor bedroom balcony. The Florida night air is humid and heavy. He looks down. It's not a fall that would necessarily kill him, but it's enough to cause serious injury. For a moment, she considers jumping, ending the pain, ending the shame, ending the constant feeling of being a fraud, a failure, a joke. But something stops him. Later, Ice would describe this moment in interviews as a turning point. He doesn't jump. Instead, he retreats inside, closes the balcony door, and decides he needs help. 1995. Ice almost completely withdraws from public life. He cancels the few performance engagements he had. He stops giving interviews. His managers try to convince him to take advantage of the remaining opportunities, but he's not interested. "I just want to live a normal life," he tells them. "I want to be Rob again, not Vanilla Ice." During this period, Ice immersed himself in activities unrelated to music. He developed a serious interest in motocross and high-speed jet skis. He competed in jet ski events, where his former fame was irrelevant. What mattered was skill, speed, and risk. In the races, nobody treats him like the failed rapper. He's just another competitor. And surprisingly, he's good. Very good. He wins several regional and national championships in different jet ski categories over the next few years. 1997. Ice marries Laura Jarretta, a woman outside the entertainment industry. They have their first daughter, Dusty Rain, that same year. A second daughter, Keely Breeze, arrives in 1998. Fatherhood gives Ice a purpose that had been missing since his music career collapsed. For the first time in years, he is genuinely happy. He builds a normal domestic life in Florida, away from the spotlight, away from public scrutiny. But the money is running out. The expenses of supporting a family and a comfortable lifestyle are high. The royalties from Ice Ice Baby continue, but they aren't enough to sustain him indefinitely. He needs to find another source of income. 1998. Ice attempts another musical comeback. He releases Hard to Swallow, an album that incorporates elements of nu metal, the genre that is dominating rock at the time. Korn, Limp Bizkit, and other bands are fusing rap with heavy, distorted guitars. Ice collaborates with Ross Robinson, the producer behind Korn and the Deftones. The album is surprisingly decent from a technical perspective. It shows that Ice has matured as an artist. But the public isn't willing to give him another chance. Sales are disastrous. Once again, the album fails to chart. The music press almost completely ignores it. 2003. After years of trying and failing to revive his music career, Ice takes a different route: reality television. He appears on The Surreal Life, a VH1 show that brings together fallen celebrities under one roof. It's humiliating. Ice is aware that being part of this show is a public admission that his career is dead, but it's also an opportunity to make money and perhaps reinvent himself. In the show, Ice is surprisingly vulnerable. He speaks openly about his struggles with depression, his contemplation of suicide, and the difficulty of being treated as a cultural joke for over a decade. The audience responds positively. For the first time since his initial downfall, people see Ice as a real human being with feelings and struggles, not just as the symbol of musical fraud. 2007. Ice discovers a new passion, real estate renovation. He starts buying properties in Florida, renovating them, and selling them at a profit. He's good at it. He has an eye for design and a solid understanding of construction. DIY Network, a cable television channel, offers its own show, The Vanilla Ice Project. The concept is simple. Each season, Ice buys a rundown mansion in Florida, completely renovates it, and sells it. The show is a moderate success. It's not a massive ratings hit, but it's consistent. It has a loyal audience, and it gives Ice a steady income and an identity beyond the rapper who lied about his past. 2015. The apparent tranquility of Ice's life crumbles. In April, he is arrested in Florida on charges of domestic violence and theft. Police reports indicate that he had a heated argument with his wife, Laura, which turned physical. The details are murky, and Ice denies the allegations of violence, but the arrest is public knowledge. Photos of his mugshot circulate online. The tabloids have a field day. Vanilla Ice arrested for domestic violence, the headlines proclaim. His wife eventually drops the charges, and Ice completes court-ordered family intervention programming. But the damage to his image is done again. It's yet another reminder that the man who conquered the world in 1990 never truly escaped the demons that haunted him from his downfall. The pressure of building a career on lies, of living with public shame, of being the laughingstock of an entire generation, left deep scars. And those scars are about to manifest themselves in an even more destructive way. Lantana, Florida, February 2015. A luxurious house in a quiet neighborhood is empty. Supposedly empty. It was foreclosed on by the bank and is awaiting processing for sale. But someone has been breaking in. A neighbor notices movement. Lights turning on at night. Vehicles in the driveway. He calls the police. When the officers arrive, they discover something shocking. The house has been ransacked. Furniture, fixtures, even building materials like swimming pools and air conditioners have been removed. The investigations lead to a name no one expected, Robert Van Winkle. Vanilla Ice. The Lantana police obtain a search warrant. They arrive at Ice's house, the property where he films his home renovation show. When they enter, they find exactly what they were looking for: furniture, fixtures, and other items that match the descriptions of what was stolen from the foreclosed home. Ice is filming when the police arrive. His TV show's cameras capture his initial reaction: confusion, then denial, then the realization that he's in serious trouble. He was arrested at the scene. The charges: grand theft and receiving stolen property. Both are felonies in Florida. In the days following his arrest, Ice tried to explain the situation. His story: he thought the house was abandoned. He assumed no one wanted it. He needed materials for his renovation project, so he simply took what he needed. It's an extraordinarily weak defense. The house was clearly owned by the bank. It wasn't in a state of total abandonment that would suggest no one had any rights to it. And more importantly, even if Ice genuinely thought it was abandoned, that doesn't give him the legal right to enter and seize property. The prosecutors aren't being kind. They see this as a clear case of theft, made worse by the fact that Ice had ample financial resources. He didn't need to steal. He chose to. After months of legal negotiations, Ice reaches a plea agreement. He pleads guilty to lesser charges in exchange for avoiding trial and the possibility of prison time. The sentence includes community service, financial restitution to the homeowners, and probation. It's humiliating, but it could have been much worse. The incident is widely reported. Once again, Ice is in the spotlight for the wrong reasons. Memes flood the internet. Ice Ice Baby, steals stuff. Someone jokes on Twitter, recreating the famous line from his song. The arrest for burglary and theft is the final straw in Ice's marriage to Laura. Already strained by the previous domestic violence incident and years of personal problems, the relationship cannot withstand another public scandal. Laura filed for divorce in 2016. After 18 years of marriage and 2 daughters, the couple separated. The details of the divorce are mostly private, but it is clear that it was contentious. At 48, Ice finds himself divorced, with a criminal record, and once again the target of public ridicule. But this time, something is different. Something has changed in the way he faces adversity. 2016 and 2017. For the first time in his life, Ice begins to publicly acknowledge his past instead of running from it. In interviews, he speaks openly about the lies he told in 1990. "I was an idiot," he says in a podcast interview. "I was a scared kid who made up a story because I didn't think the truth was interesting enough. And I paid the price for that for decades." He admits that the plagiarism of Under Pressure was exactly that, plagiarism. There are no more excuses about A Different Note. He acknowledges that he took music from Queen and David Bowie and didn't give them credit. "They were kind to me by not suing me into oblivion," he admits. "They could have. They deserved every penny I paid them." While Ice is working on coming to terms with his past, something interesting is happening in pop culture. The 90s are back. Millennials, who grew up in that decade, now have purchasing power and nostalgia for their childhood. Ice Ice Baby, which was a joke for over 2 decades, has suddenly become a nostalgic classic. The song appears in movies, television shows, and commercials. Every use generates royalties. Ice begins receiving invitations to perform on 90s nostalgia tours, sharing the stage with other acts from that era. Audiences no longer boo him. Instead, they sing along with him, smiling with that mixture of irony and genuine affection that characterizes millennial nostalgia. Ice finds a lucrative niche, the corporate party and event circuit. Companies hire celebrities from the 90s to entertain at conventions, end-of-year parties, and product launches. The pay is good, and expectations are low. He doesn't need to be the best rapper in the world. He just needs to be Vanilla Ice, get on stage, play Ice Ice Baby, and make a room full of 40-something executives reminisce about their youth. It's a strange job for someone who once wanted to be taken seriously as a hip-hop artist. But Ice has made peace with it. The respect he so desperately sought will never come. But financial stability and a certain peace of mind are enough. 2018. The Vanilla Ice project is still on the air, having survived the theft scandal. Ice has completed multiple seasons, renovating dozens of properties in Florida. The show has found its audience, people who enjoy makeover shows, but also appreciate the story behind Ice. It's not the highest-rated makeover show, but it's consistent, professional, and strangely heartwarming. Ice has developed a genuine talent for design and construction. On camera, he's relaxed, self-critical in ways that make him likable. When he makes mistakes during renovations, he admits them instead of hiding them. 2019. Ice, now 51, is in a very different place than he was a decade earlier. He's no longer married, but he maintains a relationship with his daughters. His music career is essentially a nostalgia spectacle, but he's honest about it. Her television show provides her with a steady income. Her appearances at corporate events and parties supplement that. Royalties from Ice Ice Baby continue to come in, though at a reduced rate. It's not the level of fame and fortune he briefly enjoyed in 1990, but it's sustainable. It's real. And for the first time in decades, Ice seems to be at peace with who he is. He's learned to laugh at himself. When comedians make jokes about him, he sometimes even shares them on social media. He's embraced his status as a cultural curiosity, a symbol of a specific era in pop music. But the story of Vanilla Ice isn't over. Because there's one aspect of his legacy that still needs to be examined. What did he really mean for hip-hop? Was he simply an imposter who stole from a culture that wasn't his? Or is there something more complex at play? The offices of a music magazine. 2020. A journalist is writing a retrospective article on 1990s hip-hop. In his research, he comes across a statistic that stops him in his tracks. Ice Ice Baby was the first rap song to reach #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 since Blondie's Rapture 9 years earlier. It was Vanilla Ice, not Run DMC, not Public Enemy, not NWA, who brought pure rap to the top of mainstream pop. What does that mean? The question is awkward because the answer is complicated. Ice was a fraud in many ways, but he was also undeniably effective at bringing elements of hip-hop to audiences who had never paid attention to the genre before. Universities across the United States. The late 2010s. In cultural studies and music history classes, Vanilla Ice has become a case study on cultural appropriation. The counterarguments are clear. A middle-class white man took elements from African American culture, lied about his connection to that culture, and made millions, while the black artists who created the genre faced constant barriers to the same level of mainstream success. But some scholars offer more nuanced perspectives. They point out that while Ice certainly appropriated hip-hop, his success also demonstrated to record labels that rap could sell in massive numbers. This led to increased investment in hip-hop artists in general. It's a story of exploitation that paradoxically opened doors, writes one professor. Ice didn't deserve the success he had, but his success helped prove that there was a massive market for hip-hop. Over the years, hip-hop artists have shared their opinions on Vanilla Ice. Their perspectives vary widely. Ice Cube, in a 1991 interview, said, "The guy isn't real. He didn't live what he says he lived. In hip-hop, that matters." But years later, Ice-T offered a different perspective. "Look, Vanilla Ice did what any young artist would have done. His team told him to create a story, and he did. The problem was, he got caught. But the music game is full of those stories." Eminem, the most successful white rapper of all time, has mentioned Ice on several occasions. In a 2002 interview, he said, "Vanilla Ice opened the door for someone like me to be taken seriously. But he also showed me exactly what not to do. You can't lie about who you are. The truth always comes out." Vanilla Ice's career became a cautionary tale for other white artists wanting to break into hip-hop. The lesson was clear: authenticity matters more than talent. When Eminem emerged in the late 90s, he was meticulously careful about how he presented his story. He spoke openly about growing up poor in Detroit, about his family's struggles, about his relationship with the African American community. He didn't exaggerate. He didn't fabricate gang stories. His authenticity was verifiable. Years later, Macklemore took a different approach. He openly acknowledged his privilege and the fact that his whiteness gave him advantages in an industry that discriminated against black artists. In his song, White Privilege 2, he directly examines these dynamics. Both artists learned from Ice's mistakes. Honesty about who you are and where you come from is essential. Beyond the controversy over authenticity and cultural appropriation, there is another question. Did Vanilla Ice have real talent? The objective answer is yes, but limited. As a dancer, Ice was genuinely skilled. His breakdancing moves were solid, and his stage presence had real energy. As a rapper, he was competent but not exceptional. His flow was basic compared to the greats of the genre. His lyrics lacked the depth of Rakim, the narrative skill of Slick Rick, or the political impact of Public Enemy. As a melody creator, he showed good instinct in recognizing the potential of the bass line in Under Pressure. But even that was problematic because he didn't create that line. He borrowed it from others. In short, Ice had enough talent for a modest career in entertainment. He didn't have the talent to justify the level of fame he achieved. Critics often compare Vanilla Ice to the Beastie Boys, another white hip-hop group that achieved massive success. But the differences are revealing. The Beastie Boys never lied about their origins. They were three middle-class Jewish boys from New York, and they never pretended to be anything else. Their first album, 1980's SXS, Licensed to Ill, was partly satirical, mocking frat boy culture even as it celebrated it. But more importantly, the Beastie Boys evolved. Their later albums showcased real artistic growth, genuine experimentation, and a deep respect for hip-hop as an art form. They collaborated extensively with African American artists. They used their platform to speak out about social justice. Ice never made that trip. His career was frozen at the moment of Ice Ice Baby, forever defined by the lies of 1990. Part of Ice's problem was the timing. He rose to fame at the exact moment when hip-hop was about to undergo an artistic and political revolution. 1990 was the same year Public Enemy released Fear of a Black Planet, an album that directly confronted systemic racism. It was the same year NWA was generating national controversy with Straight Outta Compton. Rap was becoming more political, more confrontational, more consciously African American in its identity. In that context, Vanilla Ice, with his light, commercial rap about partying and picking up girls, felt not only inauthentic but also trivial. He represented exactly the kind of commercialization of hip-hop that many in the community were trying to resist. One question remains. Was Vanilla Ice a victim of the music industry or the architect of his own downfall? There is evidence for both perspectives. On the one hand, Ice was very young when he rose to fame, only 23 years old. His management team pushed him to create a dramatic story to sell more records. The music industry artificially elevated him to heights he couldn't sustain, then brutally abandoned him when he made mistakes. On the other hand, Ice actively chose to lie about his past. He doubled down on his falsehoods even when questioned. He used other people's music without permission or credit. His subsequent misdeeds, domestic violence, property theft, were entirely his own. The truth probably lies somewhere in between. Ice was exploited by an industry that saw him as an opportunity to sell hip-hop to suburban white audiences. But he was also an active accomplice in his own commercialization, willing to sacrifice authenticity for success. There's a question that's rarely asked in discussions about Vanilla Ice. Why did white audiences respond so strongly to him in the first place? The uncomfortable truth is that for many young, white, suburbanites in the 1990s, Ice was their first real exposure to hip-hop. And it was a safe version of hip-hop, without the political content that made them uncomfortable, without the explicit blackness that alienated them. Ice allowed them to feel like they were participating in a cool urban culture without having to confront the racial and economic realities from which that culture emerged. It was cultural appropriation not only on Ice's part, but also on the part of his audience. 2025. 35 years after Ice Ice Baby, Vanilla Ice's legacy remains impossible to neatly categorize. He wasn't a pioneer of rap, that much is clear. He didn't contribute significantly to the artistic evolution of hip-hop. His cultural impact is more of a footnote than a main chapter. But it's a fascinating footnote because it reveals so much about the United States in 1990. About race and class. About authenticity and commercialization. About who is allowed to participate in which cultures, and under what terms. Ice opened a door that probably would have opened anyway. But he opened it the wrong way, with lies and appropriation instead of respect and genuine collaboration. And he paid the price for it. But does it deserve any credit for that historic moment, however imperfect it was? Or is it simply a symbol of everything that goes wrong when corporations and marketing hijack authentic cultural movements? The answer depends on who you ask. And that ambiguity is, in itself, part of the legacy. Los Angeles, California, 2023. In a trendy nightclub, the DJ plays a familiar song. The opening bars of that iconic bass line fill the room. Dum dum dum, da da dum dum. The crowd erupts. Hundreds of people, most of them born after Ice Ice Baby, went off the air, sing every word. Ice Ice Baby, too cold, too cold. It's a scene that repeats itself thousands of times every week around the world. 33 years after its release, Ice Ice Baby remains a staple at parties, weddings, sporting events, and nostalgia playlists. The song has transcended its creator. It has become part of the cultural fabric, instantly recognizable by generations who weren't alive when it was released. An office of BMI, one of the world's largest performing rights organizations. 2024. Analysts are reviewing playback statistics for classical songs. Ice Ice Baby has been streamed over 500 million times. It has generated over $5 million in royalties in the last decade alone. Every stream on Spotify generates money. Every time it's featured in a movie or commercial, there's a payout. And it's not just the original version. Dozens of artists have sampled or remixed Ice Ice Baby over the years. Each of those uses generates additional royalties, split between Ice and the songwriters of Under Pressure. Hollywood, California. The last 15 years. Ice Ice Baby has appeared in countless movies, television shows, and commercials. Each use reinforces its status as a cultural marker of a specific era. In Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze, 1991, Vanilla Ice makes a cameo appearance performing ninja rap. The scene is widely considered one of the strangest moments in 1990s children's cinema. The song appears in That's My Boy, 2012, Office Christmas Party, 2016, The Angry Birds Movie 2, 2019, and dozens of other productions. Each appearance is briefly ironic, playing on the audience's shared knowledge of Ice's rise and fall. Nashville, Tennessee. A songwriters conference. 2020. A panel discusses the one-hit wonder phenomenon, artists defined by a single hit song. Vanilla Ice is the prime example. Despite releasing 8 studio albums throughout his career, 99% of the public only knows Ice Ice Baby. Every other attempt to create another hit failed. It's both a blessing and a curse, explains one panelist. That song gave him enough money to live comfortably for the rest of his life. But it also froze him in time. He could never escape it. He could never be anything else. Ice himself has spoken about this dynamic in recent interviews. For years, I hated that song, he admitted in 2022. It represented everything that went wrong. But now I've accepted it. That song is my legacy, for better or for worse. An accounting office. Every quarter, the royalty statements arrive. For Vanilla Ice, the breakdown is always similar. The vast majority of his music income comes from Ice Ice Baby. The other songs generate trivial amounts in comparison. But here's the cruel irony. Due to the agreement with Queen and David Bowie, Ice only receives a fraction of the song's total royalties. The songwriters of Under Pressure receive the largest share. Estimates suggest that Ice earned approximately $10 million from Ice Ice Baby during his lifetime. That sounds impressive until you consider that the song has generated over $40 million in total revenue. The other $30 million went to Queen and David Bowie's estate. It's a constant reminder of his initial mistake. If he had been honest about the sample from the beginning, if he had licensed the music properly, he would have kept much more of the money. YouTube. Thousands of videos. Over the years, Ice Ice Baby has been covered in unimaginable ways. There are heavy metal versions, acoustic versions, classical piano versions, country music versions. The ska band Real Big Fish released a cover in 2019 that went viral, racking up over 20 million views. Their version is ironic but also genuinely musical, highlighting the song's underlying melody. These covers keep Ice Ice Baby relevant for new generations. Teenagers who never bought Ice's original album discover the song through these reinterpretations. The Internet. 2010 to the present. Ice Ice Baby has become an enduring meme. Ice's haircut, his dance moves, the song's lyrics, it's all meme fodder and viral video fodder. TikTok is full of videos using the song. Some are nostalgic, others ironic, and many are both. Young people ironically dance moves reminiscent of the 90s while the song plays. Ice has surprisingly embraced this. He has an active presence on social media where he shares memes about himself. He's learned that laughing at himself is the only way to survive as a living meme. Sports stadiums across the United States. Ice Ice Baby has become a staple at sporting events. It's played during breaks, between innings in baseball, and during timeouts in basketball. The song has an energy that works perfectly for sporting environments. It's loud, it's energetic, it's instantly recognizable. And it has the added advantage of being slightly ridiculous, which makes it perfect for the light-hearted entertainment segments that stadiums use to keep the crowd engaged. Ice is sometimes invited to perform at sporting events. He appears, sings Ice Ice Baby. The audience sings along, and everyone has a good time. It's a strange job, but it pays well. Music critics. Over the years, stripping away all the controversies, the lies, the drama, one fundamental question remains. Is Ice Ice Baby objectively a good song? Musically, it's competent. The sample from Under Pressure is undeniably effective. The beat is solid. The production is clean. The lyrics are simplistic but catchy. It's perfectly functional pop music, wrote one critic. It's not groundbreaking. It's not particularly profound. But it does its job. It's catchy, danceable, and memorable. In that sense, it's successful. Others point out that the song perfectly captures a specific moment, the sound of early 90s pop, when rap was beginning to cross over into the mainstream, but was still being tamed for mass audiences. 2025. 35 years after its release, Ice Ice Baby continues to generate money, conversation, and nostalgia. It's one of those rare songs that has achieved true cultural immortality, though not in the way its creator originally envisioned. She's not respected. She's not on lists of the best rap songs or the greatest hits of all time. But she's remembered. She's instantly recognized. And that's her own kind of achievement. For Vanilla Ice, the song is simultaneously his biggest hit and his biggest burden. It made him famous. It made him rich. And then it froze him in time, exactly as his stage name suggested. But while Ice Ice Baby continues to be played at parties, stadiums, and in movies, Vanilla Ice remains relevant in a strange way. Not as the artist he wanted to be, not as the hip-hop pioneer he aspired to be, but as something more peculiar, a perfect cultural artifact of a specific moment in American music history. And that moment, it turns out, is eternal. Dallas, Texas. 2024, Robert Matthew Van Winkle, now 57, sits at his home in Florida during a video interview. His platinum blonde hair is gone decades ago. Now he has short, naturally gray hair. He wears a simple t-shirt. He looks more like a middle-aged construction worker than the rapper he once was. The person I was in 1990 was a child, he says. A terrified child who thought I needed to be something I wasn't to succeed. I made stupid choices, and the consequences have lasted my entire life. There's an honesty in her voice that wasn't there in the interviews of the 90s. Age, repeated failures, and decades of public humiliation have created something unexpected, genuine humility. Florida, 2023. Ice maintains relationships with his two daughters, Dusty Rain and Keely Breeze, now young adults. After their parents' amicable divorce, both had to navigate the strange experience of having a father who is simultaneously a fallen celebrity and an internet meme. It was weird growing up as Vanilla Ice's daughter, Dusty said in a rare interview. People were always making jokes. But to me, he was just dad. A dad with a complicated past, but my dad. Ice rarely speaks publicly about his daughters, protecting their privacy. But when he does, it's clear that being a father is what gives his life meaning. I made a lot of mistakes, he says. But my daughters are the best thing I've ever done. A therapist's office. The year, 2010. After decades of struggling with depression and the effects of the trauma of his public downfall, Ice finally sought professional mental health help. In later interviews, he spoke about how therapy helped him process not only his failed career, but also deeper issues, his biological father's abandonment, his constant search for external validation, his tendency to construct false identities. For years, I didn't really know who Rob Van Winkle was, he explained on a 2020 podcast. I only knew who Vanilla Ice was. And when Vanilla Ice failed, I felt like I failed too. Therapy helped me understand that those are two different things. Over the years, Ice has repeatedly attempted to reconnect with the hip-hop community. The results have been mixed. Some artists have softened toward him. Coolio, before his death in 2022, said in an interview, "Look, Vanilla Ice did his thing. Was he authentic? No. But who in this industry is completely authentic? At least now he's honest about it." Others remain hostile. Ice Cube, in a 2019 interview, simply said, "I don't think about Vanilla Ice. He was never really part of hip-hop. Ice has accepted that he will never be fully accepted. I don't belong in that world," he said in 2022. I understand that. I respect that. What I did in 1990 was a form of cultural theft, even though I didn't have the terminology to understand it then. Florida, the years 2010 and 2020. While the Vanilla Ice project continued on the air, Ice expanded his real estate empire. He owns multiple properties in Florida that he rents and manages. She also diversified into other areas. She has sold clothing lines. She has launched branded products. She has appeared in commercials. Essentially, she has monetized her name and residual fame in every way possible. "I'm not rich," he says, "but I'm comfortable. I've learned not to spend more than I earn. And I've learned that easy money never lasts." It's a stark contrast to many celebrities who rose to fame young and ended up broke. Ice has been financially prudent, in part because he experienced loss once and is determined not to experience it again. 2016. During the United States presidential election, Ice publicly expressed his support for Donald Trump. This generated further controversy and criticism from fans and other artists. In later years, Ice has been more reserved about politics, apparently learning that public political statements only add fuel to his already complicated legacy. "I'm not a political person," he said in 2020. "I said things that in retrospect I wish I had kept to myself. My job is to entertain, not preach." 2020. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Ice was booked to perform at an event in Texas that violated the state's capacity and safety restrictions. The event went viral on social media, and Ice faced criticism for being irresponsible during a pandemic. Ice apologized, stating that he didn't fully understand the restrictions and that he made a mistake. But the incident was yet another reminder that his decisions continue to be scrutinized and judged more harshly than those of celebrities who never experienced his level of downfall. Throughout the years 2010 and 2020, Ice collaborated with unexpected artists. He appeared on tracks with ICP, Insane Clown Posse. He worked with rock artists. He made surprise appearances at concerts. None of these collaborations have produced hits, but they show that Ice still has connections in the industry and that some artists are willing to work with him, whether out of nostalgia, irony, or genuine respect for his persistence. In almost every recent interview, Ice faces some version of the same question. Do you have any regrets? His responses have evolved. In the 2000s, he was still defensive. In the 2010s, he began to show genuine remorse. In the 2020s, his response is nuanced. I regret the lies, he says. I regret not giving credit where it was due. I regret the stupid decisions that hurt my family. But do I regret Ice Ice Baby? No. That song changed my life. It gave me experiences I never would have had otherwise. It taught me lessons I needed to learn, even though they were painful. 2025. Robert Van Winkle is a 57-year-old man who has lived multiple lives. He was a child searching for his identity. He was a musical superstar for a brief moment. He was a cultural joke for decades. He was a suicidal man at his lowest point. And now he is, what exactly? I'm a survivor, he says. Not in the cool way the word implies, but literally. I survived my own stupidity. I survived public humiliation. I survived the collapse of everything I thought I was. She spends her days renovating houses, occasionally performing at events, managing her rental properties, and spending time with her daughters. It's a normal, almost boring life for someone who was once on top of the world. But perhaps that's exactly what he needed. After years of being Vanilla Ice, of playing a character, of chasing external validation, Rob Van Winkle finally has something he never had in 1990, peace with who he truly is. It's not the life she dreamed of at 23, but it's the life she built after those dreams collapsed. And that's enough. Las Vegas, Nevada, summer of 2024. The theater is packed with approximately 5,000 people. On stage, a succession of acts from the 1990s, Color Me Bad, Tone Loc, Coolio's Comrades, performing as a posthumous tribute act, and finally, Vanilla Ice. When Ice takes the stage, the crowd goes wild. It's not the frenzied adoration of 1990. It's something more complex, nostalgia mixed with irony, affection mixed with amusement. These people grew up with Ice Ice Baby. The song is intertwined with their memories of youth, of basement parties, school dances, a simpler era before September 11th, before social media, before the world became so complicated. Ice performs all the moves he performed 34 years ago. The dancing isn't as sharp. The voice isn't as powerful. But the energy is there, and the audience sings along to every word. When the final note of Ice Ice Baby fades, the theater rises to its feet, applauding. For a moment, everyone is back in 1990. For a moment, nothing that came after matters. University of Contemporary Music, Boston, Massachusetts, 2023. A professor is giving a lecture on the history of hip-hop. Vanilla Ice arrives. Vanilla Ice is a perfect case study, he tells his students. It teaches us about authenticity in art, about the importance of giving credit, about the dangers of building a career on lies, and about racial dynamics and cultural appropriation. The students, mostly between 18 and 22 years old, know Vanilla Ice only vaguely. To them, he's a historical curiosity, not a relevant artist. But the story captures their attention because it's so human. The rise, the fall, the aftermath. What happened to Vanilla Ice could happen to any of you, the professor warns. In the age of social media, where everything is public and permanent, a single mistake can define an entire career. The only protection is honesty from the start. A hypothetical scenario that Ice has imagined many times. What would have happened if he had been honest from the beginning? If he had said, I'm Rob Van Winkle. I grew up in the suburbs. I love hip-hop, and I want to be a part of it. This is my story, no exaggeration. If only I had given proper credit to Queen and David Bowie from the beginning. If he had acknowledged his privileged position as a white artist entering a predominantly African-American genre, would he have been successful anyway? Probably not to the same degree. The music industry in 1990 was looking for dramatic stories, not mundane honesty. And the white audiences who embraced him did so in part because his fabricated story allowed them to feel connected to urban culture without confronting uncomfortable realities. But perhaps he would have had a longer and more fulfilling career. Perhaps he would have been respected instead of ridiculed. Perhaps he would have slept better at night. 35 years later, Vanilla Ice's impact on pop culture is undeniable, although not in the way he wanted. Ice Ice Baby established that rap could sell massive numbers to mainstream audiences. This led to increased investment from record labels in hip-hop, which paradoxically benefited African-American artists who finally received the marketing support they deserved. Ice's failure also set boundaries. Labels learned they couldn't simply manufacture hip-hop artists with fabricated backstories. Authenticity mattered. This lesson helped artists like Eminem, who was scrupulously honest about his past. And culturally, Vanilla Ice became shorthand for a specific type of failure, the rapid rise based on falsehoods, followed by an equally rapid collapse when the truth emerges. Over the years, African-American voices have offered varied perspectives on Vanilla Ice and his legacy. Academic Mark Lamont Hill wrote, "Vanilla Ice represents America's perpetual problem with blackness. They want the style, the coolness, the culture, but they don't want the black lives that created it." Ice was a conduit for that, consciously or not. Artist and activist Tarana Burke offered a different perspective. "I don't blame Vanilla Ice as much as I blame an industry and a society that told him he could only succeed if he pretended to be something he wasn't. The problem isn't just Ice. The problem is the system that makes lies more profitable than the truth." Both perspectives are valid, and both point beyond Ice to larger systemic problems about race, culture, and commerce in the United States. The question remains, can someone like Vanilla Ice truly redeem himself? In a cancel culture where past mistakes can haunt someone indefinitely, Ice represents an interesting case. He has been canceled repeatedly since 1990, decades before that terminology existed. But she has also survived. She has admitted her mistakes. She has shown growth. She has built a life beyond her moment of fame. "Redemption doesn't mean everyone forgives you," said one cultural commentator. "It means you learn from your mistakes and live differently." In that sense, Ice has achieved some measure of redemption, but he must also live with the consequences of his actions forever. Ice has been contacted multiple times by producers who want to make a full-length documentary about his life. So far, he has rejected all offers. "I'm not ready for that," he says. "Maybe I never will be. Going through everything, with every painful detail laid bare. I don't know if I can handle it." There's also an element of control. Ice has spent decades being defined by others, by the media, by critics, by memes. A documentary would be another instance of handing over his narrative to others. But part of him acknowledges that the story must be told in full. "Maybe when I'm old," he says, "when nothing matters anymore. Maybe then I can be completely honest about everything." Despite everything, there have been moments of genuine grace in recent years. In 2019, Ice performed at a charity event for terminally ill children. The children, most too young to know about his controversies, simply thought he was cool. After the show, he spent hours taking pictures and talking with the families. "Those are the moments that matter now," he said later. "Not full stadiums or billboard charts. Just making some kids smile." In 2022, he quietly donated to organizations that support music education in underserved African American communities. He didn't publicize it. He didn't seek public credit. He just did it. They're small acts. They don't erase the past, but they suggest that the man behind Vanilla Ice is still trying to do the right thing. Freddie Mercury died on November 24, 1991, less than a year after Ice Ice Baby reached #1. David Bowie died on January 10, 2016. Ice never had the chance to sit down with any of them and personally apologize for using their music without permission. He never got to explain that he was a stupid young man who made a terrible mistake. He never got to thank them for not legally destroying him when they could have. "That haunts me," he admitted in 2020. "Especially Bowie. When he died, I realized I could never apologize to him personally. That opportunity was gone forever." It's a reminder that some consequences are permanent. Some apologies can never be given. Some relationships can never be repaired. 2025. 35 years after Ice Ice Baby, Vanilla Ice is still the ghost of the 90s that refuses to disappear. He appears on one-hit wonder lists, in articles about the biggest flops in music, in memes and viral videos. But it also appears on nostalgia playlists, at 90s-themed parties, in conversations about a specific moment in American cultural history when everything seemed simpler, even though it wasn't. Robert Van Winkle, the man, continues to live his life in Florida. He renovates houses. He sees his daughters. He acts occasionally. He manages his properties. It's a quiet, normal life. But Vanilla Ice, the character, the meme, the cultural icon, lives on forever. Frozen in time in 1990, with that iconic haircut, that leather jacket, that confident smile of a young man who didn't know what was coming. Ice Ice Baby will continue to be played at parties, weddings, and events long after Robert Van Winkle dies. Generations who weren't alive when the song was released will know it. They'll sing it. And they probably won't know anything about the man who created it, the lies he told, or the price he paid. And perhaps that's appropriate. Because in the end, Vanilla Ice isn't really about Robert Van Winkle. It's about a specific cultural moment. About what America was in 1990. About the promises of quick success and the dangers of fake authenticity. About how we build idols and then tear them down. About race and class and who's allowed to participate in which cultures. It's a story about deception and consequences. About ambition and humiliation. About rise and fall and the long, slow, painful life that comes after. It's the story of how a young man from Dallas conquered the world with a lie, lost everything in 72 hours, and spent the rest of his life trying to find redemption. It's the story of Vanilla Ice. And 35 years later, the story is still not finished.